I would like to welcome Colonel Bella to the kind podium. Talushi Hanilana Kutaja Kapesha Shouti. Colonel Bella, please.
Thank you very much for the reception. I wanted to say a few words about that I think mainly to the younger Hmong people who were born in the U.S. Something to remember their ancestors by. I know my family in the U.S. came from Europe before the American Revolution. And I've always been very proud of that fact. And I think the Hmong who are here now, the ones who were born here, should have some way to remember their ancestors for their participation. Now, I was the first one who talked to General Bang Pao about what the Hmong would do in Laos. You know, the North Laos had been overrun by the communists, and they were threatening the entire country. And I had not really been sent by the U.S. government to find Long Pao. That was my own idea, because I knew who he was, and that he was the senior military figure among the Hmong people. So I finally found out where he was, and I found him in the jungle south of the Plain de Jar. And I asked him, you know, what will you do now? You know, now that this country's overrun. He was in the jungle there with about 30 men.
Would you like me to talk to you?
Right.
One day, cú rong xe tua cổng này còn nói tới gì cú cha lụt thế là cú xa hở cho tú luận thầy luận mongวันนี้cho mong lên này tận thế cú tụ khen cú pa cú giờ lỡ tua tới chờ cho mình đi tua cú tụ yêu tới chờ nó nên cho mình nhiều mong cho tu cho thầy mong tới yêu tới chờ nó cú xa cả nên mua bánh sủi thế nên mua xì hở thế nên qua tàu tí dạng còn đi cho mình nhiều tới yêu tới chờ nó cú xa biết mình cho đến đây bao thì cú giờ tới thơ tù tôi đó là chùa tê tôi mượn chi thì này phân vào bỏ nhớ rồi bể sáng nhớ rồi đã cá của bắt thì nhớ rồi hạ rong của tôi mượn chi rồi nhớ bể cá lúc tiệt thời gian bể.
And you know, at that time he was a captain in the Lao Army, and he was the assistant district of the Xianquang military district, the assistant commander. And what he said to me then was, he said, you know, the Hmong cannot live with the communists. So we either must fight the communists or we must leave Laos. And he said, if you could give us the weapons, we will fight the communists. I mean, at this point, I had no real authority from the U.S. to offer anything like that, but I told him I would go back and talk to my people and hope that we could do something, and that's what I did. And then we started arming the Hmong. But there was no agreement with the Lao government, and the agreement, there was no real agreement with the U.S. government, because they said they would fight they wanted to fight the communists. We did not pay anybody anything at that point. Now later, people have called the Hmong mercenaries, which absolutely was not true. Now later, we did start paying them, because the Hmong were farmers, and if they spent too much time in the field, they could no longer be farmers. They had to have some means to live, and we started paying salaries, but they were never mercenaries. And of course, then the Hmong fought very well through the war, and even when the war was ending, I mean, in Laos we were not in bad condition. In other words, we still controlled a lot of land, and you know, I think without any question could have survived. But at this point, you know, the U.S. had decided that they must that politically they had to get out of Vietnam.
thảo lúc xưa của tôi mù chỉ là phân loại bỏ ra nên dọc qua tàu bay lúc nó cố sư nếu hai đó cố thì mong vậy cho nên chỉ nhiệt cái trái cổng trà sẽ có giờ ba ta chỉ tàu bay giờ có mất tiệp bỏ đó bay bây giờ sợ là tua cổng trà là một tí tái bay tê của chờ chỉ nên tê đâu là phân loại bỏ thì chia của mình thao của chờ lo thả tới xí nhớ là tới chờ là chùa nó chính phủ là chùa là chỉ bao chính phủ thái là chỉ bao để bay vào lên nó chia của mình cho của chờ lo thả tin để lo thế li tao thả thếเราcho luônกูจะล้อเตะปอจองกูที่ลีซาเตียบปอเทียเตะตัวมือเคลียจอมงเรามือเตอจ่าตีไทยกองชาเนี่ยเราเตะจะเราจัวเตะจะเราจัวหน่อชื่อเราจัวจีเป้าหน่อชื่อไทยเราจีเป้าอเมริกาเราจีเป้าแต่สีกูเป้าแต่นี่มองอย่างนึงวันเอาเขาอย่างนี้เสือเรามือลีน่าเลยเจ้าจุดต่อมือเนี่ยป้านี่นี่เตาจอกูที่ลีเตาท้อก่อนนี่มือเนี่ยลีเราหมู
Now, I had known the Hmong in Thailand already, so I knew that they would make great natural guerrilla fighters because they lived in the mountains and they had never taken a step in their life that wasn't up or down the mountain. And of course, that proved to be true, and so we did well. But when the U.S. decided to get out, then we forced the Laotian government to sign an agreement to participate in a coalition government with the communists. Well, you know, the Americans knew. I mean, Secretary Kissinger knew the communists had never participated in a coalition government. A coalition government was only a step to take over. But what they did do, which I was very happy that they did, they told the Hmong who believed that their lives would be in danger if they stayed in Laos, they gave them the opportunity to leave, first to go to Thailand and then later to come to the U.S. A lot of people said then that why are we sending these Hmong to the U.S. because they are very primitive people. They will never survive in our society. I knew that wasn't true because the Hmong I knew while they were in many cases they were uneducated people, they were extremely bright, adaptable, and they had moved through, in history they had moved through so many different countries that they adapted wherever they went.
Vấn đề của tôi là chúa tế của những cờ thia bao chấm mong rộng lại chấm mong nhất thái tế của tư cờ cho nên cho kế cho nó cho hòa kế hòa nên tàu cầu xong của thế mà tua mù của bao tiền này vậy cho nên nhớ tao trong hồ bể mua bánh sử hành hòa đã chỉ hòa tia này tàu lạnh lúc hậu lửa này chỉ cho chê thảo lúc xưa hỏi của tôi là của bao tiền này cho yêu hòa tàu tí thái cổng trà vì thế tế cho America lúc chỉ xá có cổng trà tôi mua chi tôi cho nó cho chữ thế này tàu tiền gia lý chế bế chủ cỏ trong mong là sợ nó bế hòa cho lấy thế này bỏ rong xa tiệp bỏ tua xa nhẹ tua ba này thầu lúc xưa hậu sẽ được bóng tế chờ ít xe hay được của ai tiề bây giờ cho trong mong là tôi muốn lấy chị America tê lấy nhớ tao trong hồ bể lấy cho mình thiến non thì hậu tàu ta chỉ của hai tàu cho nó chữ thế cho America này tiền của bao lấy rong lấy dân nâng nhớ tao trong hồ bể ta chỉ lấy cho vào nào hậu lấy dân nâng tí dạng cầu lấy cho tư lấy những hoa tàu tí dạng cầu bế sao trò lấy chê khỏi nói giờ chở lù của hai khi đó cho chỉ tàu bế thì chỉ tàu này.
Now I believe that as if in the future when when the Hmong people who were born here grow up, when they can say that my father or my great grandfather fought for their freedom in Laos and they came to the U.S. for that reason, I think they can be very, very proud of that. That they, as I am very proud to say that my ancestors fought in the U.S. Revolution that won the freedom of the United States. So I hope that you can all remember that, and I think that would probably be the most important thing that I could say today.
khó cú sa hay đó cho tú hoàn xài lòng mong hay đó này giá tận đi cú sa cái này dọn trong theo bao thiên cho thằng này nhẹ thì chỉ lúc tiên chỉ thì lỡ tàu mất trăng trà cho xe mù thiệt cho cái thái yên tàu này tàuนี่ตัวสติชนอละสักกันนี่ยอดซที่นี่จุจ้าซเตียนนี่เนี่ยนี่จีนี่ปนนี่อย่างอีจหนึ่งมั่วเป็นสื่อว่าได้จิโอติเตียแล้วตีไทยเตเชอแล้วตีไทยหรือจะเกยืเพ่งกันนี่เตาเกไทยยังกันนี่มั่วเกยซึ่งนี่ตัวนึงติชนอกันนี่รงลีลัวเขาเนี่ยเขากูเขาย่อให้แค่ตัวนี้จะหลัว
And I just want to, in parting, say that I appreciate very much the honor of being invited here, and I hope that I can see you again. I didn't want to talk too long because I think everybody's ears are tired by now.
Cái nào cũng trong xe thì của này cho đến này chẳng cho của tôi họ nói thế của chỉ xã hai lần đấy đó họ cũng bỏ để bé trái pla lở cái của sau lên nói của trong xe thì tuần chi này của chẳng cho xe thì này cho của tôi cầu nên gì qua cho
seem to be holding the weather away, so that's really good news. We have two of your Lao veteran pilots are heading down to Kenosha. They'll be flying in the T-28s, I think for the first time since their return. Two of your pilots will fly. We'll have 20, somewhere in the area of 20 T-28s. As you can see out in the parking lot, we have a Huey that'll be taking off about 1:30, so if you wanted to go check it out, take pictures. The OH-6, the little scout helicopter, will stay until the flyover and participate. About 2:45 is when we'll have C-130 come over, and you'll know when that comes over. And then after that we'll have the flyby. We'll have O2s. We have a Helio that just got in from Michigan, weather permitting. So everything looks very good, and this is all in tribute. All of these pilots are taking time at no cost and coming here in tribute to the veterans and those of you who have gone through the struggle, and the utmost respect that they have is unbelievable. So thank you all, and we look forward to keeping the clouds up there a little further.
Are you flying too, Bob?
I'm flying about as high as I'm going to get today.
you know, okay, Bob's going to fly too, but he will fly low. Are you going to fly as low as Lilu?
No, I can't do that good.
You know, we were told that Lilu fly underneath the tree.
Yeah, I heard that with the branches coming out of the struts, right?
Kun nu ne te sen po ya ne te ne ya ta si ma ne cho ya ki tao li ne ya su ho ne chi ka ya ka ki cha li lu na na li lu ma ne no ti ya ki chi ki ma ke kha ti mo long tong tao ne lu ne cha la mo na
Lá
As many of you know, the C-130 was used as a gunship for supplies, dropping beaches, dropping civilian folks down.
Thì bây giờ nó xí mà biết nhau.
With the red tail, that's in tribute to our General Abercroft, who made sure that the Helio remained a part of the war.
Buat thì rồi bây giờ mong một dài như hồng chỗ nữa.
The last one will perform the Mystic Man ceremony, which is in tribute to all the Lao Hmong that died and the American veterans that served along with them, and we'll also be playing taps during that. So if you give it reverent attention, we appreciate it.
Sau cho đã lâu giờ thà là lời chúa ý lúc là cá lời giờ lúc nữa giờ và tiên chỉ thế giờ rồi bây giờ cũng tu trò đầu ta chỉ nên là có sẽ đời sống tiêu giờ trừ sáng bây giờ chuối ra kề ở bây giờ cũng tu trò tàu trò bên trên là
I don't see you anymore.
At 83, I'm beginning to lose some of my smarts. And following these young people here and the great entertainment and the speeches, we've come a long way. What I'd like to do tonight is give you a thumbnail of what I encountered in my many years of association with Bill Lair, the father of the Hmong, and with the Hmong. More than 42 years ago, in the fall of 1960, I first met General Vang Pao, then Lieutenant Colonel Vang Pao, and some of the Hmong leaders at Padong, Thailand, and the jungles of Laos. We drank that powerful Thai whiskey with Bill Lair, the father of the Hmong, who introduced me to Vang Pao. And with Bill, we talked with General Vang Pao and his leadership of how we would provide the wherewithal for the Hmong to conduct guerrilla warfare in that part of Laos. In those early days, the United States government was looking for allies to support our policies in Southeast Asia. The Hmong were seeking to gain equal rights as citizens of Laos. Not only seeking freedom of equal rights, but willing to fight and die for it. Agreement was reached, and Vang Pao organized and led his people in a war against the communists, believing that they had a staunch ally, the United States of America, who would stand by them to the end and never go back on their promises that had been agreed to. So these valiant people, for the next 13 years, supported the United States' every request, sacrificing thousands of young, brave warriors in the belief that the United States of America would stay the course until the very end and victory. Today, we are gathered here to pay tribute to those brave and loyal group and combat soldiers. Now let me remind you, this is 1995 in Denver, Colorado. And they're the finest soldiers that I've ever known. To those who have made this supreme sacrifice to their families, I want you to know that what my government did to your people, the Lao tribe, is inexcusable. We sacrificed the lives of young men, their homeland, and their families. I can remember in the 1960s, the Hmong had succeeded in tying down thousands of the North Vietnamese best soldiers in military region 2 of Laos. This resulted in the United States taking far fewer casualties in Vietnam. Some 10 first-class North Vietnamese divisions were diverted to Laos, thereby relieving American personnel in Vietnam. Your constant attacks on the Ho Chi Minh Trail and your protection of our forward staging bases, rescue bases, Site 36, and the bombing facility at Site 85, where we conducted all of our radar operations and positioning the strike aircraft in North Vietnam, saved thousands of planes. As it was, we lost 3,000 or 4,000 airplanes, some 1,500 105s, Had we not had that facility, we would have lost a lot more. Although all these years and CIA, State Department pressured you to increase your activities in northern Laos, your response was always positive, regardless of the terrible suffering you endured. Your villages came under fire, and many of your family members were killed or wounded. More than 10%, some 40% of people were sacrificed as casualties. Many of these young men were your finest. But you still remained a staunch ally. We all here today are veterans of the United States secret war in Laos. We are very familiar with what your nation did for those many years of conflict in that secret war. What did we do for you, our staunchest ally? We provided the wherewithal to pursue the war as long as it served our purpose. Then, when our policies makers in Washington decided to withdraw from Laos in 1975, we withdrew without looking back. Without looking back to ensure that our loyal Hmong allies and their families were provided the wherewithal to relocate. What really happened was that the thousands of Hmong who remained in Laos were brutally punished for their friendship and support of the United States. They were doused with deadly chemicals from the air after our withdrawal, forced from their homes and villages, incarcerated. Many died of torture or starved to death. For those who fled to Thailand and what they thought was safety and refuge became 20 years of incarceration in squalid camps administered by the Thai police. The United States State Department, after 20 years, has not been able to relocate these brave allies. Some 30,000 families, this was 8 years ago, are still there today. They are now faced with forced repatriation back to Laos, and for many, the same communist government that they had fled from 20 years ago. A government that at least is partially controlled by the Hmong dreaded enemy, the North Vietnamese. During the height of the Hmong involvement, the CIA budget for the Lao operation was just short of $1 billion annually. Today we spend a couple of $1 billion a week in Iraq. While we ignore our obligations to the Hmong, the United States has deployed troops to Desert Storm to prevent the Iraq from overrunning and annexing Kuwait. Deployed combat forces to Bosnia, Panama, Somalia, and given humanitarian assistance around the world, but nothing to the Hmong. What I am really concerned about is, even today, and I might just point out that about 5 or 6 years ago, the United States evacuated 4,000 of the Iraqis 4,000